People who were missing as a child. What happened? I was 14 when I discovered my dad wasn't actually my dad. Found the adoption papers while looking for my birth certificate for a school trip. The whole thing was hidden in a manila folder labeled tax documents, which seemed like a weird place to keep my supposed birth records. I confronted my parents at dinner, and they completely freaked out. Started yelling about how I wasn't ready to know the truth and that I was too young to understand. My mom started crying, saying they'd planned to tell me when I graduated high school. My dad got angry and said I had no business going through their private files. He grabbed the papers from my hands and said some things are better left alone. My mom locked everything in their bedroom safe and said we'd talk when I turned 18. 4 years felt like forever when I had so many questions burning in my head. Who was my real mom? Why did she give me up? Did I have siblings somewhere? Did she ever think about me? My parents refused to answer anything. Every time I brought it up, they'd change the subject or tell me to focus on school instead. They acted like I was being ungrateful for wanting to know where I came from, so I did what any angry teenager would do. I packed a bag with clothes and snacks and snuck out at 3 a.m. to find my real parents myself. Left a note saying I'd be back when I found the truth they wouldn't give me. I'd memorized my birth mother's name from the papers, Sarah Chen, last known address in Seattle. The address was from 2008, but it was all I had to work with. I took my birthday money and bought a bus ticket. The trip took 12 hours with 3 transfers. I practiced what I'd say to her the whole time. By the time I got to Seattle, I was terrified she wouldn't want to see me or that she'd moved away years ago. Found the address, but it was just an old apartment building. The landlord said Sarah had moved out 5 years earlier but left a forwarding address for mail. He gave it to me after I lied and said I was her niece. The new address led me to a small restaurant downtown called Golden Dragon. When I walked in and asked for Sarah Chen, the hostess pointed to a woman wiping down tables in the back. I walked over and said, "Are you Sarah Chen, who used to live on Pine Street?" She looked up and her face went completely white. She stared at me for like 10 seconds without saying anything. Then she started crying and dropped her cleaning rag. She said, "You look exactly like your father did at your age." She hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe and kept saying she couldn't believe I was really there. Turns out she'd been looking for me for years, but the adoption was closed. She'd hired 3 different lawyers trying to get information about where I ended up. She even had a private investigator working on finding me. The crazy part, she lived only 200 miles away from me this whole time. My adoptive parents knew exactly where she was because they'd been getting updates through the adoption agency. They just never told me any of it. Sarah called in sick to work and we spent the whole day talking. She showed me pictures of my biological father who died in a car accident when I was 2. That's why she couldn't keep me. She was 19 and had no family support. She also told me I had 2 half-siblings, a brother who was 12 and a sister who was 10. She'd remarried when I was 8 and always wondered if I'd want to meet them someday. When the police finally tracked me down 3 days later, Sarah was right there with a family lawyer. She'd already started the process to get visitation rights since I was old enough to make that choice. My adoptive parents drove all the way to Seattle to get me. They were furious that I'd run away, and even more angry that I'd found Sarah. They tried to forbid me from seeing her again, but the lawyer explained that at 14 I had the right to request contact with my birth family. My adoptive parents couldn't legally stop her from seeing me as long as a judge approved it. The little drive home was silent except for my mom crying in the passenger seat. My dad kept saying I'd betrayed their trust and that Sarah would just disappoint me eventually. 2 months later, the court approved supervised visits. Now I spend summers with Sarah and learned my half-siblings are amazing. My brother Jake loves basketball just like me, and my sister Emma is obsessed with art. My adoptive parents still aren't happy about it, but they've stopped trying to guilt me. Sarah never tries to replace them. She just fills in the missing pieces of who I am. Sometimes running away leads you exactly where you belong.